Hello everyone, welcome to another video. And this time I wanted to show everybody how you can quite easily install Redmine, but this time on the Debian Bullseye edition, so the newest one. But since we cannot actually use the Rails passenger and the gems here, like I showed in a previous video with the Debian Buster installation on the server, then we're gonna use Docker here. So we're gonna use containers and the technology that is dedicated to containers. So if you don't know anything about Docker, don't worry. All you need to know is just to follow my instructions here from this video, and everything is gonna be set. If you want to deep dive into Docker, I strongly suggest it, because basically every IT specialist should know as much as you can about containers and containerization, because it's really easy, it's fast, and you can deploy many images simultaneously, so basically at the same time. Okay, so without any further chatter, let's start. So first of all, let's just check for updates. So basically that's the main thing I always do before I install anything. Okay, seems like that's something. Okay. Okay, so now we can update apt package index and install packages to allow apt to use a repository over HTTPS. So what we're gonna do here now, I made some notes. I'm gonna just read them through because I don't remember all of the stuff from my head, on top of my head. Okay, so we're gonna do sudo apt install, and we're gonna install CA certificates, curl, of course, because it's gonna be needed to pull down all the required stuff. GNU PG, of course, for the certificates to create self-signed certificates, and LSB release. So there we go, and it's going. Okay, next thing we need to do, we're gonna add Docker's official GPG key. So first of all, I'm gonna make a directory. So I'm gonna use sudo make directory -p, and it's gonna be situated in etc apt keyrings. Okay, so it's gonna be keyrings. Now I'm gonna use curl, of course, the one that I just installed, to pull down the GPG key. So I'm pulling down the GPG key from downloaddocker.com, Linux Debian. And here is my Docker GPG key that is gonna be situated in the keyrings folder. Okay. Now we're gonna set up the repository. So here I'm gonna use echo. And I'm gonna do Debian Arch, signed by, of course, I show here by what, so the Docker GPG key that I just downloaded. And of course from downloaddocker.com Linux Debian and the stable release. So, okay. Next thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna use here sudo chmod, gonna modify the Docker GPG key, and now I'm gonna do apt-get update again, so to pull down necessary stuff. And now we can actually proceed with the install of Docker. So we're gonna install Docker CE, so the community edition is CLI, and containered, and the Docker Compose plugin, right? Okay, so I'm gonna pull down all of this. After this install is completed, we're gonna then install Docker Compose. Some people of course suggest that you can instead of using Docker Compose you can use Docker Swarm because it's supposedly better than Compose. I just for the purpose of this video wanted to show you how Compose works and how easily you can install it and what you can do with it, because like the name says, Compose, you can compose your own installation files. Basically you're composing the whole configuration of the install that is gonna commence once you actually run it. So if you want to pull down WordPress, you're basically preparing your own WordPress in a config file. It's nicely stored, you can always update the config file quite easily after everything is done. And it's like you're pre-packaging the stuff that you're gonna download and then install, so you know what's inside. It's not like a surprise. Okay, so now let's do the install of Docker Compose. So again, we're gonna use curl here to pull down the Docker Compose. So as you can see, I'm getting it from GitHub, Docker Compose release. Of course, I chose the latest release, 2.14.2. At least at the time that I'm making this video, it's the newest release. Remember, if you want the newest one, just check what's the newest one and change it here before you actually run this command. Okay, so there you go, it's pulling it down. After that, we're gonna change our directory. I'm gonna, of course, chmod the Docker Compose file. After that, I'm gonna give it write and read permissions. I'm gonna run Docker Compose just to show you that it actually is working. So let's change the directory to user local bin. If I do ls, we got the Docker Compose file here. I'm gonna chmod into it like this. And after that, we're just gonna run Docker Compose. And there we go, we have Docker here. So that's the composed version. These are the flags that you can use here. Everything is nicely written here. What kind of commands you can of course use. Pretty easy stuff, nothing really mm, nothing hard to be honest here. Okay, I just wanted to see if there's a config here. No, there is not. Okay, the config command, it's not here. Right, okay, so after we installed both Docker and Docker Compose, we of course can now proceed with making our directory. I'm gonna make it here in user local bin. I'm gonna create a directory it's gonna be called Redmine, and in this directory, of course, I'm gonna create my own Docker Compose file, so my own config file. But I'm gonna specify what kind of stuff I want inside, and then after the whole config is done, I'm gonna use Docker Compose to pull down Redmine the way I wanted it to be done. So basically how you operate on Docker Compose, every time you want to use it, you just create a folder, let's say Redmine or WordPress or whatever, Joomla, whatever, Nginx, whatever you want to pull down. You go into the folder, you create a Docker Compose file, of course. So I'm gonna do nano Docker Compose. It's a YAML file. It's called the extension is EML or EAML, depending what kind of way you want it. And of course, here you start to specify all the configuration options for your installment. So I'm just gonna copy it because I prepared it previously. Okay, so I'm gonna copy the config. And it looks like this. So what does it basically mean? So on top of here we have the version. The newest version is 3, but the version specified for this certain Docker Compose file is 2. because I'm taking this from the Bitnami version of Docker Compose file, and they had like version 2, so I'm sticking to their version. Of course, we have the two main services. So service number 1 is MariaDB, service number 2 is Redmine. If we go next, here we got the image, of course, so we are pulling the MariaDB image from Bitnami, and we are pulling the MariaDB image 10.6. Next we got the volumes, of course, and next we got environment variables that you can specify for your MariaDB. So I got here allow empty passwords set on yes, which is very unsecure, so bear in mind that it shouldn't be on yes, it should be on no, and you should specify your own database password here, because I have MariaDB user, which is BN Redmine, under MariaDB database name specified, so I have the username and the database name. I don't have a password specified, so basically my password is set on blank. Next I got Redmine. Image of Redmine is also pulled from Bitnami, and it's Redmine 5. I changed my default port because the default port here is 80. I'm changing to my own port 665, and basically this port 665 is being mapped to port 3000. If you change this to something else, probably it wouldn't work, because the default port that works for this configuration is port 3000, so you can specify whichever port you want here, but you have to leave this one without any changes. Okay, so next volumes, of course, we have the Bitnami Redmine, and we have the clause depends on, because Redmine depends on MariaDB, which is logical here. Of course, we have the environment variables again, specific for Redmine. So we have this time empty password set on no. We got the Redmine database host, a port number specified. We got the username for the database. We got the database name. Of course, we got the Redmine username, which I got here. I got a Redmine password, which is this one. Default language set to English, and I got a Redmine database password, which is set to Bitnami. Okay, so if we open our site from Bitnami, we can check the default environment variables here. So you have like default configuration variables. As you can see, if you didn't change anything and you actually installed everything from here using of course curl, and you pulled down this Docker Compose YAML file that was composed by Bitnami, and then you use Docker Compose app to actually install this configuration from this pre-packaged and predetermined Docker Compose file, then majority of those environment variables are gonna be specified here. So your default port is 3000, your default username for the Redmine database for Redmine is user, your default password is Bitnami1. This is of course the email that you can change later on after you log into Redmine using those credentials. First name, last name, the stuff that you can actually change after logging in, of course the English, and the same stuff goes to, of course, database. So we got MariaDB here. Here we have host MariaDB. As you can see, the default port is 3306. Then we have the variables for MySQL. So if you were using MySQL, got all the variables here, so you can check them out and set them in your Docker Compose file before you actually start to download everything. Of course, if you want to use Postgres, you can use Postgres SQL. Here are all the things regarding Postgres. And over here you got an SMTP configuration, which I'm going to be showing later on. So these are the basic environment variables that you can use for Redmine, for the database of Redmine, for MariaDB or MySQL, right, or Postgres. So okay, we got the Docker Compose file specified, and now I'm just gonna save it. And we're gonna do here, of course, Docker Compose up -d, which is gonna start. It's gonna start to download MariaDB and Redmine. This is gonna take a moment, so I'm just gonna pause the video for now and unpause it when it's done. Okay, so since the download is practically done, I'm just gonna wait a moment. Okay. And we got both of them running. So as you can see, we got MariaDB running right now, and we got our Redmine running as well on port 665. Okay, so let's just check for a quick test. Okay, so my Redmine didn't want to work, so now let's go to our Docker Compose file. Let's check. I'm just gonna for now remove this, and I'm just gonna change this to yes. And of course, if you want to update those containers of yours that you have right now, you again, after making any kind of changes in the Docker Compose YAML file, just use Docker Compose up -d, and they are recreated once again. So you can just check with Docker PS. It says here that it's up. I'm gonna check in a moment how it goes here. Well, it takes a while for the Redmine to get up, as you can see. Okay, so now let's check our compose file. So my basic username is this and my password is this. So let's see if actually everything works. And it works. I have logged in. I'm just gonna go to the setup and I'm gonna change this to the default English language. Okay, so now everything is in default English language. So as you can see, the default language was English, so the same one that I've actually specified in the YAML file, which is here. So the thing is, actually, from what I have done and what I have tested, the first time that you actually compose the whole file, if you let's say change the username or password afterwards, let's say I would like to change this password right now to something else, I'm quite certain it won't work. We can even try. I can change this password to, let's say, something like this. I'm gonna save it. I'm gonna do again docker compose. It has been updated. Now let's check what's going on here. Those containers are both up, but we need to sign out of here and we need to actually restart everything. I can even take the ID of the container and do I'm gonna restart this container, this Redmine container. Of course, now I need to wait until it comes up again. Until this is rolling is good, it means that it's trying to connect. Okay, so let's just sign in. So it doesn't work. Only the previous one that was specified is gonna work. So that's a little bit strange, to be honest. I don't know what's the deal here and why it is like this. But it seems like the first thing that you actually specify in this YAML file, when you actually do the docker compose up -d, you can actually change some things. Like here I changed it from no to yes, the password, and I also took the database password off from here. So I'm just gonna change this back to the one that was, and I'm gonna change this to no. I'm gonna see what's gonna happen right now. And of course docker compose up -d again. Let's check if the container is up, and the container is down, so he doesn't like that. He wants this variable to be on yes. Of course, I haven't specified the database password here, so maybe that's why he went down. Now it's up again. I can specify the password here, and we're gonna see what's gonna happen. Well, it's up for now. Well, let's check it. The best way to check if it's really up is just to try to reach the actual Redmine. And we're gonna see if that worked. Well, it did work. I'm signing in, of course, with the first credentials that I've created. Both of them are up. The file has been changed. Of course, here I have allow password on yes, which I'm gonna change to no. And let's check now. Docker compose up. Okay. Seems like they are both up. We're gonna see in a moment. Let's check again then. Sign out. Let's try to sign in again. Okay, so as you can see, you can specify some variables here. Not all of them, I guess, because I couldn't change my password to a different one, although I've tried. Didn't work, as you can see. But I specified some different things like this password, additional password, and I changed this to no. And the Docker container of Redmine is up, so it works. Of course, if I would just now specify here the password for MariaDB, the same way I would just do MariaDB dash database dash password, and I would specify the password and change this to no, would stop working. Why? I don't know, to be honest. What's the deal about it? I haven't, to be honest, haven't been studying this for a very long time, so I would need to read more about it. Why is it happening like this when you specify it for MariaDB like this? Of course, I can, just for the purpose of showing, let's specify this to no, and we're gonna, of course, add the variable here. MariaDB database password. Of course, since this YAML file is very sensitive to any kind of tabs, spaces and stuff like that, everything needs to be in line, so just remember also about that. Everything needs to be in certain lines. If you have some configuration problems, you can always use docker -compose config, which actually this config option goes through your whole configuration file and shows you how it actually looks. I'm gonna show it in a moment. So if you run the docker compose config, two useful things will happen. So first, your YAML file will get a syntax check, and secondly, compose is going to resolve a final YAML file, which is the single source of truth of what actually gets run in the end. So quite handy. Okay, I'm just gonna specify the password here. Let's say it's gonna be I bet it's not gonna work. Probably it's down already. Yep. So as you can see, after specifying the password and trying to do the same thing as we did just now in Redmine, it didn't work. What's the deal about it? To be honest, I don't know. I would have to, like I said, read more about it. Unless I'm using a bad variable here. Maybe it's not MariaDB database password, maybe it's something else. Oh, great. I think I lost my internet connection for a moment. Okay, so now let's actually, I will need to jump to okay, and let's now check. I'm gonna do docker ps. Okay, so it's up. I'm gonna try to log in once again, and it's all fine. Okay, so Redmine is up. Of course, we can change the protocol to HTTPS here. We can change our host here for, of course, our specified IP address with the port that we are using right now. I'm gonna save it. Display, I changed it to English. Authentication, of course. Project users, issue tracking, time tracking. Next we got files and we got email verification. So here you will need to configure the configuration YAML file if you want your SMTP to work, and if you want email notifications to be sent to your email address. I'm gonna show you in a moment how to do it. First of all, well, it would be better to manage all of those two containers if we had something with the GUI, of course. So what I'm gonna use here, I'm gonna pull down Portainer. Of course, Portainer is the thing that we can use to manage all the Docker containers. It's just one of the softwares that you can use. It's fairly easy. As you can see, I'm setting up basically my port here for Portainer is gonna be this one. So again I'm mapping this port to this because this is the default Portainer port. The name of my container is Portainer. It's gonna restart always, has a flag restart always. So the Portainer is gonna restart every time my server reboots, or it's gonna be rebooted after something. The Portainer is gonna be up. Of course, both of my instances on Docker, so Redmine and MariaDB are gonna be down, so you'll need to log into my Portainer and restart them. Okay, so because I didn't specify in my YAML file the restart flag or anything like that, you can of course specify those flags, so your containers are just gonna go up every time if something happens. And I'm pulling down the CE version of Portainer, so the community edition version. There is also a business edition version that is paid, so I'm using the free version. It's again gonna take a moment. We can just check here what do we have here also. But incoming emails, repositories, Git repository. What else do we have? We have information, of course. Redmine version is, as you can see, 5.0.4 stable, Ruby version, Rails version. As you can see, the newest Rails version here, so 6.1.7. I think it's the newest one. Mailer delivery through SMTP. Database adapter, of course, MySQL too. Okay. Go back to settings, email notifications. Of course, here on Bitnami they are also suggesting that you can create the same kind of instance manually. So first of all, you would need to run this command, so create a network, Redmine network. Next, you would compose the first file, or not compose, but you would just prepare for download the first container. So you would need to first run this command to create a volume named MariaDB data, and then you would use those commands to pull down MariaDB. So as you can see, would be in the latest version, of course. It would use the Redmine network, which was specified here. Of course, again, they have the flag set for allow empty password to yes, which is very unsecure, and they have MariaDB password specified here, and it's called Bitnami. So I don't know if you change this to no and left it like it is and did docker compose up minus d, if it would go up again, if it would restart and it would work. I haven't actually haven't tested it, so maybe it would work this way, because as you could see from the YAML file, that didn't go that well. But here we have another thing specified for Redmine, so we are pulling Redmine here the same way I'm pulling Portainer right now. And for Redmine, they have specified two ports here, so the port 8080 mapped to port 8080 and the port 8443, which is mapped to port 8443. So basically, you could change this to whatever port you want, and you could scratch this port at all. So you could just delete this port, leave only this port, and change it. I think I was actually trying to use this port 8443. It didn't work for me. but the port 3000 from the actual Docker compose YAML file that they specified worked without any problems, because this is on port 3000, only it's changed to 665. So it's up for testing, of course. If you would like to do it manually, you can go ahead and do it like this. Of course, they also recommend mounting directories, so they are recommending to MariaDB to do MariaDB persistence, and of course Redmine persistence, which I have actually specified at the beginning when I was composing my YAML file. I specified those two lines, I added them to the volumes, but the Docker compose YAML file, after pulling down MariaDB and Redmine, they didn't want to work properly, they didn't want to start, or they were restarting. So I guess either you need to add those after the compose file is actually configured and you have pulled your MariaDB and Redmine. So we can actually take a look right now. Let's do Docker PS. So I'm gonna just check what I have. I have Portainer right now. I have my Redmine running and I have MariaDB running. So now let's go to the actual YAML file. And we're gonna do what they wanted us to do, so let's add those two lines. We're gonna see if everything goes well or not. So let's add them here. So first MariaDB, and the second one of course is for Redmine for persistence. Persisted on. Okay. Now let's do of course Docker compose. And let's do Docker PS. And as you can see, immediately MariaDB is down. So it's the first indication that with this stuff it's not gonna work. At least in this config it's not gonna work. I can try to leave it with Redmine. I'm gonna see if it works. Okay. Okay, everything is up. Let's see our Redmine. I'm gonna see if it actually connects. It's not down here, so it shows that it's still working. It's trying to connect. Let's see. Doesn't seem like it. So I'm just gonna go back to the YAML file, and I'm gonna remove this as well. Well, now it's working, thinking, so there we go. So as you can see, it didn't work in my YAML file, unfortunately. Okay, so let's go now to another thing that I wanted to show. So let's go to Portainer, because we actually have Portainer now. And it's specified port 666. There we go. It's our Portainer. Unfortunately, if you wait too long, it's gonna show you this screen, because you need to restart the container again. So, which I'm gonna do because it was waiting too long. Okay. All right. Get started. I'm gonna do it like that. So basically, here we have the overview. If we click on here, we get the main overview. So we got 3 containers, 1 stack, 3 images, 3 volumes, and 4 networks. So this is the dashboard. Of course, if we click on those containers, you can see those 3 containers that you have. So Portainer, Redmine, MariaDB, and Redmine, so your main Redmine. These are the specified ports, of course. And the thing is, if I would like to change those ports to something else, how I can actually do it. So you can do it actually in 3 ways, because if you have a YAML file like I have, we can try to specify this port, change this port in the YAML file. We'll see if it actually works this way. So first of all, let's try to change the port for Redmine here to something different. So maybe let's go here, and we're gonna change this port, let's say to this one. I'm gonna do this. Okay, now we're gonna open up our Portainer. Let's see what's going on. Seems like everything is running, nothing went down after the change of the port. The port has changed here as well. And we're gonna see if it actually worked here. So let's change the port. Scratch all of this. So it works without any problem here. So that's the first way you can actually change a port if you have a YAML file. If you don't have a YAML file specified, you only, let's say I pull down Portainer, right? I specified in the actual installment of Portainer that I want it to be mapped to this port, but let's say I want to change it. If you would like to change it, you will need to first of all locate one file. So I'm gonna do locate. Actually, I'm gonna install locate because I don't have it. Update database. After that, we can actually try to find. Okay, so first of all, let's do docker. Yes, we need the ID, of course, of our Portainer. So I'm gonna take this ID. I'm gonna do docker stop. So I'm stopping the container. Now I'm gonna systemctl stop docker. So I'm stopping the whole docker right now. Okay, and after all of this, we need to find the configuration file which holds all the specification of our Docker compose of our Portainer. Sorry. So I'm gonna use find, and instead of Docker compose, I'm gonna search for hostconfig.json. So I'm looking for this file. So I got three files: hostconfig.json, and each of those files, as you can see, responds to every container. So first configuration file responds to the first container, so to Redmine. Second configuration file responds to MariaDB, and the last configuration file should respond to my Portainer. And let's check. So I'm just gonna copy this. I'm gonna use nano. I'm gonna open this file. And as you can see, it's Portainer, right? So it's Portainer data. So we need to find, of course, the ports. And there we have port bindings. You got port bindings here. And here you have the port bindings. And so basically, this port is mapped to this. So if I want to change the port, I'm just gonna change it here. Let's say to 7. You can also host IP, so I can specify even the IP address. I'm gonna save it. And after this, what we need to do, we need to actually, of course, start Docker again. Okay, systemctl start Docker. So Docker has been started. Then we do Docker ps. Okay. And I'm gonna do, of course, stop. And I'm gonna restart Portainer. So my Portainer was here. That's the ID. try to restart the Portainer, and we're gonna see what do we have here. So error starting the proxy, listening, so he doesn't like this, right? So we need to again stop Docker, stopping the Docker. Okay, and now let's check the config file once again for Portainer. So I'm just gonna scratch this IP address. I'm gonna only leave the changed port, and now I'm gonna, of course, start Docker. So start Docker. Okay, and the Portainer is up. So he didn't like the fact that I changed and specified the IP address. As you can see, the port has changed. We can go here to the Portainer, and we're gonna change it to 7. And here's our Portainer working. There we go. 3 containers, so both of them, like I said, I haven't specified in my YAML file the restart flags. So each time everything restarts, the Docker restarts. Of course, Portainer is gonna go up because it had the restart flag, and those two are down, so I need to just start them. And there you go. So that's the one way that you can actually change your port, your default ports of your different containers. This, of course, is the easiest way to change the port for different kind of containers you have. But there is, of course, another way if you would like to change the port. You can go to the certain container. Let's say I would like to change it to Redmine. So first of all, I go to Redmine. I just have to stop, of course, the container here. Go to duplicate and edit, and here you have all the information about your Redmine instance. So the host port, which you can of course change to whichever you would like to. If you would like to add another port to be published, you can do it as well. Of course, enable the access control, which is administrator here. Okay, and here you have advanced options of the container. You can check everything regarding your container here. So the volumes, how they are actually set, network, environment variables, so the things that are specified in your YAML file, they are here. You can actually change them here as well, those values. Labels, of course, you can check different kind of stuff here, like the version, compose, Docker compose version, there you go, the newest one. The image version, of course, of this Redmine, which is 5.03. Restart policy, runtime, and resources, and capabilities. Okay, so basically everything. You can change quite a lot of stuff here regarding your container without even touching the YAML file, because these variables can be changed. You can, of course, change the port or add another port, even if you would like to. When you're done with all the changes, you need to deploy the containers, or you have to click here, deploy the container. Then you are asked if you want to replace the existing container. You need to click replace, and then it's gonna replace your existing container. Okay, I'm gonna start Redmine once again. So there you go. There's like 3 different ways that you can actually change your ports in your Portainer, or in general. So you can either change it through the YAML file, you can change it through Portainer, or you can change it through the hostconfig.json file. Of course, if I would like to, let's say, add another port here, I would need to, let's say I would like to add another port to Redmine. I would need to specify another port, so would like to do it like so. So first docker ps, because I need to check what's my Redmine ID. This is my Redmine ID, so I'm gonna do, I'm stopping the container, stop the docker. Now I need to find, okay, so from what I can see from here, first file is Redmine, so this configuration file is for Redmine. Okay, so let's use nano. Let's open. And we got our port binding. So this is my Redmine, right? Redmine default. So I could change this port binding or add another port binding if I would like to. If you would like to add another port binding, you would need to actually copy all of this, if I'm correct. We'll see, because I actually don't remember it. I think it was something like this. I'm gonna specify something else. Let's say 3001. I'm gonna save the configuration file. And now I would need to actually first start the Docker. Okay, Docker is started. Let's go to Portainer. Okay. So as you can see, something went wrong because it actually disappeared from the configuration. So probably would be a little bit different. Probably it's gonna be a little bit different. I need to just check it for a moment. Okay. So let's go back to the configuration file. And okay, so let's say I'm just gonna change this. It's gonna be like this. And or the bindings, okay. So I got here the first thing, and the second thing should be specified like this. Okay. So let's say I want to specify an additional port. So it's gonna look something like this without one clause. Okay. So basically, as you can see, this is the first port here, ends here, and another one starts here, and everything ends here. So I'm gonna, of course, change this. 8443, although I could leave it because that's also the default, one of the default ports for Redmine. We're gonna see if it actually goes with it. I'm just gonna start Docker. I'm gonna see what Portainer shows. Okay, so it's up here. Nope. So I guess it has to be done a little bit different then. So first of all, let's actually try to fail to start the container. Okay, so cannot start the container. So let's stop Docker once again. Let's open the configuration file. And let's actually scratch this. Okay. Gonna start Docker once again. Okay. We got one inactive volume. Images unused. So my Redmine. Let's see containers. Let's see volumes. Redmine volume is also unused. Okay. Okay, right. So now let's try to start it. We'll see what it says. So it says that it cannot be started. So after that, let's check here. And what I can actually do, I won't remove it. There are no options here. Okay, image. There is only remove here. Okay. Well, I can always try to recreate it. Let's see if we can actually recreate it. Okay, it's up, and gonna check right now. And our Portainer, it's up and running. Okay, with the change ports, of course. So if I can remember it correctly, you can of course change it in the configuration file like I showed. I probably misfucked something in this configuration file, because those port bindings, because I remember that you could actually change it. You can actually change it, and maybe just for the heck of it, I'm gonna try once again. Okay, let's actually first maybe let's stop the container. Let's do Redmine. Let's stop the container here. Okay. Now let's do stopping Docker once again, opening the config file. Now I'm gonna do some mumbo jumbo here. So port bindings. Oh crap! Yeah, two of those. Probably that's why it wasn't working. Okay, well, what you can do? Dickhead is a dickhead. Okay, let's change this. We can do it like that. Okay, so let's check it out right now. For the bindings, I'm gonna change. Oh, let's just leave it for now. I'm gonna see what pops up. So basically, I set up two port bindings here for port 8080 and port 8443. So we should have two port bindings from the specification that we had here, from what they actually set up here for Redmine. Alright. Okay, so I'm just gonna check if this time I didn't leave like two at the end. No, there's a right sign. Fine. Okay, now let's go back and start the Docker. Starting Docker. Okay, now we can go to Portainer again. Okay, so both of them are down. Let's bring them up. And we have our Redmine. Doesn't have any ports specified here at the moment. and it should. We're gonna start Docker once again. Let's open the file. And let's change it. Okay. Now let's start. Again, Portainer, hello. Starting both. Let's check Redmine. So as you can see, basically now I have specified another port mapping for Redmine, so now should be mapped to port 3001. So now it's mapped to port 3001. So basically this setting from the configuration file, I have set the first port binding here and the second port binding here, which I probably should switch. So, because I can see that it actually worked, I'm gonna stop the Docker again. Let's open the file and let's switch it. So we're gonna switch this. Gonna change it to 3000, so the default port specified from Dynamic. This I'm gonna set to 3000, and this one I'm gonna set to 3000. And let's save it and let's restart again. Okay. Okay, both volumes are up. Okay, so basically it's doable. Of course, you can have both of those ports, but the thing is, I'll try to stop this for a moment. I think I'm just missing the actual thing here, because I would actually scratch all of this right now. I would also leave only one default port. Let's start both of them. Yeah, it's still pulling out everything from the YAML file, as you can see. Because in my YAML file it has this configuration set to port 664. So the one configuration that I've changed right now is not working because it's using the YAML file, not the JSON file that we just edited. So it just tells you that you edited the stuff wrong, basically. So, because it should be changed. Okay, well, either way, it can be done. It's like just a matter of trial and error, basically. I'm gonna go here for 665. But that's the basic way that you can actually set up those ports. I'm just gonna start this again. Okay, the port is fine. I'm gonna change the port here. 664. We need to check it out. Oh, it's still running. Okay. So I'm just gonna sign in. And actually now we can go to our settings and check out the email notifications. Email notifications. One more thing about Portainer, because Portainer has of course settings here. If you would like to specify an SSL certificate for your Portainer and make it HTTPS, all you need to do is just have like a CRT or a SIR file, so a certificate, and of course a private key, either a dot key or in a PEM file. So you need to have a certificate in a PEM file and key in a PEM file, or just a private key as dot key and a certificate as .crt or .sir, whichever ever. You can select those two files, of course, give it to Portainer, force HTTPS, apply the changes, reload everything, and you should have secure connection through HTTPS. Of course, if you don't have a bot domain name, like I don't have it right here, I'm using my IP address, you can of course do it with a self-signed certificate. So I'm just gonna check if I have some stuff about it, so you can actually do it quite fast. Okay. Right, securing Portainer, there we go, securing Portainer. Okay, so what do we need to actually locate? I'm gonna do locate Portainer data. So there we have Portainer data. So this is your main Portainer folder. I'm gonna change the directory. And here you have all the Portainer, most important Portainer folders. You got certs, so certificates. So we can go to certs here. If you check this, the content of this folder, it has a cert and key, both in PEM. And this stuff shows up every time you restart Portainer. So it's self-created. Those files are created every time Portainer restarts. If you want to, of course, create your own certificates, self-signed certificates, you can do it like this. So first of all, I'm using OpenSSL. I'm gonna create Portainer key. Okay, now we're gonna actually create the certificate and the key. So we're gonna create Portainer certificate and Portainer key. Of course, once again, I'm using my IP address because it's self-signed. Okay, so now we have our Portainer certificate and our Portainer key. If you want to serve them to Portainer, I'm gonna use WinSCP. I'm gonna log into the server. Of course, the easiest way is just to copy the path because it's quite long. And we have here the Portainer certificate and our key, so I'm just gonna copy this stuff. I'm just gonna do it like this. Put those two things here. Okay, I got them. And now what we need to do, we need to open, of course, select those files. So I'm just gonna select them. So Portainer certificate, Portainer key, force HTTPS, apply changes, yes. And of course, now I have have it signed for my IP address. I could also do, of course, add this Portainer to my trusted certificates. So after that, when I check it once again, it's gonna be trusted. Here it says that it's fine. I can now log out of here. And I'm just gonna do it like this. Opening Portainer once again. Admin. Okay. So that's just like a basic stuff for creating a self-signed certificate for Portainer. Of course, if you bought one yourself, you can use it here, and it's gonna probably work very well. Okay, so let's go to the last thing that I wanted to mention in this tutorial that took quite a long time because I was dwelling on those configurations files from the host config JSON. Okay, so we're gonna set up SMTP in the configuration YAML file. So we need to find this configuration YAML file. So I'm just gonna do locate. Okay. What do we have here? Let's take a look. So there's one here, and this is gonna be the one because it's in Docker volumes, Redmine data config, and there we have configuration YAML file. So this is the file that you need to actually open. So I'm just gonna open it with nano, and there you have, this is the email configuration file. So first thing you need to set, so you're leaving this on default, email delivery. I'm gonna look for Gmail because I have Gmail set up. So we're gonna set up this. And you need to, of course, specify email delivery. Here test. Gonna specify those things as well. I don't remember what it was. I need to check. Be back in a sec. Okay, so I'm back. I'm in my Gmail account. This is some kind of bogus Gmail account that I just set up quickly for the purpose of this config. That's gonna be the password to it. Let's save it. We're gonna see. need to actually restart Redmine after that, so I'll go to Portainer, dashboard, containers, hide this, Redmine, restart. I'm gonna restart everything. Let's change it like that. Let's see Docker. What Docker shows? Docker shows that it actually went down. So I got something misspelled, or we'll see in a moment. Okay, this is running for now. I'm just gonna try to pick it up. I'm gonna see if it's fine or not. No, as you can see, it exited, so the configuration file, need to change it again. Okay, so this is fine, this is fine. Okay, so this is the SMTP configuration, as you can see. I read my configuration file. So basically what we're gonna set here is we're gonna leave this on default. So we're creating a default configuration for SMTP. Next we're leaving email delivery. Of course we have like a simple SMTP server using login authentication. We got SMTP server using plain authentication, and we have SMTP server using TLS Gmail. So this is the one I'm using because I have a Gmail account. So some kind of bogus one, of course. So that's how you need to configure it. You're gonna configure it by delivery method SMTP settings, enable start TLS auto true. Address is gonna be smtpgmail.com, port 587, domain same smtpgmail.com. Authentication is plain, username, of course your username, password, of course your password. Remember not to put quotes in the username or password, otherwise your configuration file won't work. Next, send email commands. Email delivery, and the delivery method needs to be changed to test. And there you go. So this is how it works. We can now go to okay, I'm just gonna restart Redmine. Okay, containers, Redmine, restart. Okay, we're gonna restart Redmine because after you save the configuration file, you need to do it. It's going back up. Okay, let's sign out for a moment. Sign in again. Okay, administration, and we're gonna go to settings, and we're gonna go to our email notifications, and there you go. This is how it should look. Now we can specify something here, as you can see, something like that. We can save it, and to send a test email, first you need to go to your users. As you can see, this is a different server. The previous one was on 664, this is on 665, but it doesn't matter. I created here this user with this email address. And if you want to send those notifications, you need to specify the email address here. Otherwise, if you done the configuration only in the settings and you forgot about that email address in the user tab, then your email notification after pressing this button is gonna send the test email to that bogus email address that was in your user account. So bear in mind. So I'm gonna just send it, and it was sent to my email account here. I don't know how fast it's gonna arrive, but it doesn't matter. Either way, this is how SMTP looks. Fairly easy, nothing complicated here, to be honest. From the server side, yeah, basically I think that's gonna be it. If it goes to Redmine and on Docker. So if you liked the video, of course, like, subscribe, share, and if you feel like being a supporter for the channel, then you can go for it by using the link in the description. So thanks again for watching. I hope this material will be useful for you. You're gonna use it in your daily work or even for testing. Thanks again, and I will catch you in the next video.